Recording on the computer. Okay, so my name is Kelly Bailey. For all of you who are new to the call today, students, alumni, guests of the university, and it is my pleasure to introduce two lovely ladies this evening to talk about the Alumni Speaker Series. The first one I'm going to introduce is Angelina Saldamarco. She is involved with the Green and White Society. She's the Vice President for Alumni, and she is one of the students who is very responsible for promoting and planning this program this evening. So Angelina.
Well, promoting Niki, she made the flyer and, all of that. So I'll give her credit for that. But like Kelly said, my name's Angelina. I'm VP of Alumni for the Green and White Society. So tonight we're going to introduce Niki Campbell. She's an SRU 96 grad, I believe. She's the owner of the Flourish Group, which is a company designed around promoting healthy eating and physical fitness for both individuals and companies. So what we're going to do to begin the program is Ms. Campbell will deliver her message. During this time, you are encouraged to pop any questions, comments, concerns in the chat window. Kelly and I are going to be monitoring that while Niki is speaking. And then after her little presentation, about like 20 minutes or so, Kelly and I will facilitate a Q&A discussion type thing. And then once all the chat questions, comments are addressed, we'll move into just an open forum. You can feel free to unmute your mics at that point and just ask questions freely, or you can continue to put them in the chat and we'll continue to monitor that. So that's kind of the feel and flow for tonight. Bear with us, we've never done this event online, so hopefully we can work out any kinks as we go. And hopefully everybody learns a lot and just has a nice night.
Okay,
Are
Niki,
you ready for me? Okay.
I think we are ready for you now.
Okay. I wasn't sure if the other Niki was going to speak, so I didn't want to jump the gun, but thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be the test pilot project for this Zoom alumni speaking engagement. So I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm going to be completely honest, like my college advisor is on right now. And so if I'm a little nervous because I feel like she's still probably looking back at the transcripts to make sure I have, completed all the requirements. So no, I really appreciate being here. I'm always excited to come back and, talk to alumni, students, staff about my business, where I started at SRU and how that's evolved through my career and now as a small business owner. So first of all, can you hear me okay? Everything's good? Okay. So I guess the theme of what I'm going to talk about today is around the topic of curiosity. And so I kind of titled it, it's a little corny, but curiosity creates careers. So the more curious you are, the more opportunities that will present themselves to you. So a little bit of background on me and my time at SRU. Like they said, I graduated in 1996 with a degree in English writing. And so if you're thinking, okay, she has a health and wellness business now, but graduated with an English degree, what exactly are her qualifications to be doing what she's doing now? So it took a roundabout way to get here, but even in school, and I think for a lot of students, you probably could, relate to this. I didn't come out of high school saying, I want to be an English major. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. And in fact, I started as a pre-physical therapy major. And once I found out I had to be around human cadavers, I was like, yep, that's it, I'm out. So I started in a completely different field, took a few classes. And I've always been a storyteller. I love, gathering people around and telling stories and, learning about people through their stories. And so the idea of the English writing program really appealed to me. So that's what I pursued. But as Dr. Dreyer can attest to, she can remember back all those years, is that I came to almost the end of my curriculum and I still had some credits to meet my graduation requirements. And she had suggested looking into the communications program because English and communications obviously goes so well together. And so I did. I took a few classes in the communications department, and specifically in public relations and PR writing, and things that really complemented what I had already learned in the English writing program. And that's when it clicked for me. That's when I was like, this is how I can tell stories, I can write. I knew I didn't want to go into education. So this was where I finally, the light bulb came on, and I knew I was going to be, excuse me, a writer. So for the past 24 years, pretty much, I've been a storyteller. I worked for a big ad agency in Pittsburgh. It's no longer there now, but I worked for them. I was the first SRU graduate to work there. I was an intern there and then worked there afterwards. And then, just kind of the normal career progression. So worked for some big brands like Heinz. I've worked for UPMC, just kind of a normal career path for somebody who would be in communications. But the curiosity, so what made my career different was that along the way, I would always, ask to do the things that maybe not everybody else liked to do. So an example is when I worked for the ad agency, we had a department that was called media relations. So if you've got any communications majors in here, you'll know what that is. But it's basically reaching out to cranky reporters and asking them to write about your company or your product. And reporters are known for being very abrupt and, maybe not responsive. It's not a job that at the time a lot of people wanted to do, but I was curious about it. And so I said, well, I'll do it. I'll make the calls. I have a pretty thick skin. And it turns out I was really good at it and I loved it. And I did that for the majority of my career. So not only did I get to, write the stories, but I got to find ways to put them out there in the world. So curiosity, like I said, has always kind of been part of my career path. So I left the agency world and kind of went out on my own for a little bit when my kids were younger, because it just gave me a little bit more flexibility. And I love that. In 2010, I got what at the time thought was my absolute dream job. So I've always loved working in food and beverage. So I've, worked for Heinz, I've worked for, Del Monte, StarKist, some of these other food brands. And so I applied for and I got a job working for McDonald's. So it's kind of funny now that I am in, fitness, that I worked for McDonald's. And to this day, and I will always say this, they're an amazing employer. I loved the job. I was traveling. I got to do all sorts of really great things. But if you would have said, initially looking at the job description, it was a communications manager for McDonald's in Pittsburgh. It was odd, but I was curious. So I went to work for McDonald's, and while I was there, I rose pretty quickly, had 2 promotions in like 4 years. We moved to North Carolina. I was relocated there. Just it was an amazing 4 or 5 years until I was diagnosed with 2 autoimmune diseases. So like at the height of my career, feeling really good about things, here I am like, on this path to, kind of leadership positions within this giant company that I loved and treated people really well, and don't believe all of the things that you hear. It's a great company. I had responsibility for communicating to 5,000 restaurants. I worked with executives. I wrote speeches. It was literally everything I thought I'd ever want to do. So to be kind of at that pinnacle, for me at least, and then be told you've got 2 serious, semi-serious health conditions, and the biggest factor, kind of contributing to it is stress, lifestyle, nutrition, fitness, all these things. And I wasn't an unhealthy person. I was just busy. I traveled a lot, staying up late, early morning meetings, drinks at the bar after dinner, after a long day of meetings. And it just was not a very healthy lifestyle. So again, curiosity kicks in, the kind of, writer's mind, and like, I need to do research. So I started to look into, what can I do? What can I do to kind of help myself out of this from a health and nutrition standpoint? And again, being curious, really dug into the research. And what I found was it really can come down to nutrition, primarily, that that can impact your your diagnosis and how you manage these diseases. So I continued to work, I continued to travel, but I made some big lifestyle changes where I made fitness a priority. So I would get up, it didn't matter where I was traveling, I would get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym and make sure I was eating good food and make sure that I was, getting to bed at a decent hour so that I could continue to do the things that I loved from my career standpoint, but then, wasn't going to, collapse one day because I wasn't taking care of myself. Along the way, people that I worked with, mostly executives, were kind of intrigued by this like newfound commitment. And they were like, how do you do this? How do you get up? How do you, hold yourself accountable? How do you, when we're all tired and we're all working these really crazy hours? And so I started what started as a like accountability group text. It was like the people I worked with, I'd say, I'm in the gym, come meet me. So this is where I think my coaching and now what I do really started, because it started to work. It started to click. People started to join me at the gym and, started asking me what they should be eating. At this point, I had no education in, nutrition or fitness or anything. It was really just my own self-knowledge, my own self-education, my curiosity that was kind of bringing me through this. So it was probably 2015, McDonald's restructured. And instead of getting, less responsibility, no one ever gets that in restructuring, you get more responsibility because they lay people off. So my territory got bigger and my resources were fewer. And so I really found myself in a position of having to make a decision. Am I going to continue to do this? Can I continue to do this for the long term? Or is there something else? And initially, I did not think I was going to completely change careers. I thought, I'm just going to come home. We're going to move back to Pittsburgh. I'm going to get a job there that is, no travel. It is a much better work-life balance, and everything will be fine. And I did that. We moved home. I was so happy to come back to Pittsburgh, found a great job. I thought that I was doing what I wanted to do. But I had this nagging kind of, again, the whole curiosity thing kind of in the back of my mind. What else is there? I like helping people. I know I'm good at it. I like being able to, show people that there's a better way to take care of yourself, especially people who work and people who are professionals who have these crazy schedules. So it just kind of kept nagging at me. And so in 2016, I said, you know what, I'm going to take one class. I'm going to enroll in a nutrition program and I'm going to take one class. And I did. I took Foundations of Nutrition. And to say I was hooked at that point would be an understatement. I felt like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I started and I set a goal for myself. I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish this degree and, maybe make the transition into a different career. And I did it. I gave myself 4 years. That was 2016. This is 2020. I'm finishing my final class this semester in bioorganic chemistry. So Dr. Dreyer, can you believe that? I could barely pass basic, science at Slippery Rock, but, you find yourself in your mid 40s and you think, oh yeah, I can go back and be, taking all these science classes. So I will finish the degree this December. And along the way, then I got some other certifications and things that I needed to do to take me to the point where I would be able to leave a full-time job and have a sustainable business, coaching and doing workplace wellness consulting. And that's where I am. And initially, so when I first started in the program with nutrition, I was so caught up in the technical, the technical courses and all the knowledge that I needed because I had no science background whatsoever. And I quickly learned that any kind of healthcare profession, yes, you need the technical knowledge, but it's based on, especially wellness, it's based on communication. It's based on being able to connect with people and help them see what their future looks like when they're healthier, when they're happier, when they're fitter, or they just feel better about themselves. Every professor I've had in the dietetics program has said to me, you will be such a great nutrition professional because you know how to communicate. You know how to put these complex concepts that somebody who might have to lose 50 pounds is overwhelmed, maybe trying to figure it out on their own. You can take that and put it into simpler terms. You have, the ability to be empathetic in your communication and your writing. And I never thought, I really just thought I'm going to leave this communications, English, education behind for this new career. And I'm finding, and for the past 4 years, that it has prepared me so well for what I'm doing now. Because yes, I can tell you, how many calories you should eat, or what your resting metabolic rate is for your height and your weight and your activity level. But that's not what you want. If you're a person who has a health condition and you need to lose weight, that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to be motivated? And so, I feel so fortunate to have that background from Slippery Rock in writing, in communications, and then 20 some years of experience working with people and influencing people. I never thought media relations and influencing a reporter to cover a product that one of my clients was launching would help me in influencing somebody to make a change in their life and their health. But it has. And so I guess I would just say that, be curious and be open to those things, because I've lived through now as a professional 9/11, the economy collapsing in 2008, 2009, and now a global pandemic. And I feel like you have to be flexible. You have to look at your education as just the start. It's just the foundation. How can you take that and, pivot or be flexible if the world changes tomorrow and you need to find a new job or you need to find a new career? What are you learning now that's going to set you up for that? So I have been so incredibly blessed by, the networks I've made at Slippery Rock, the people I still stay in touch with, and I've come back and connected with communications and the English departments, and that has all really, really paid off. But that education and that foundation is just invaluable. Now, as a 40 something student, finishing up, yes, chemistry is really hard. Like I'm going to be totally honest with you, I got a 47% on my first test, and it was devastating. It was awful, and it's a challenge to go back to school in your 40s. I have since recovered and have since rallied, and I'm back where I should be. But I feel like it's the challenge and it's the curiosity. Yes, I don't love chemistry, but I'm very curious about how these things work in the body. So you just have to kind of keep an open mind, be flexible, be, again, curious, and go where your passion takes you. So I had probably had more on my notes here to talk about, but I really feel like that's the gist of it, is that what you're doing right now and the degree you get is going to be amazing. And maybe you'll spend 30 years as a physical therapist, or 30 years, as an accountant. And that's awesome if that's what you want to do. But an accountant can also become, a teacher, and a physical therapist can become a business owner, or, work in a completely different field like marketing. just, don't pigeonhole yourself into things, because the world has so much to offer, and this education is just such a good start and a good foundation. So I think that's it. I mean, that's me in a nutshell. I just would love any conversation or, dialogue or questions. I'm happy to expand on anything.
That is a really amazing story. And I think for maybe any student who's struggling in class, I think it's good to know that you can rally back solidly from a 40. So don't worry, guys.
It was horrible.
We've all
But
had
it's
those
true.
days.
And I'm not
Rally.
somebody who's, only going to tell you the good stuff. I mean, it took me, I was not a 4-year out, it took me a little longer than 4 years to get through Slippery Rock. So, it's, the struggle is worth it though. It's so worth it.
So it looks like we have a couple questions coming. Students, if you have any, or anyone, students, alums, if you have them, just either type them in. But we have one question from Dennis about how have you made this transition from working for someone else to owning your own business?
So, well, and it's going from working for very big companies with lots of resources and staff to I am employee number one and only. It's very humbling at times. You are responsible for everything that happens, every failure, every success. And so it's humbling, but it's also, when you do have the successes, it's amazing. And what I would say for that, anyone who wants to go into owning their own business and being an entrepreneur, do not think that you just know how to do it because you've got a laptop and a cell phone and you can just, start, working. Invest. I'm always going to be, I'm a coach, so I invest in other coaches. I invest in continuing education. I invest in entrepreneurial workshops and seminars and things like that. Now, don't fill up your entire day with education, because you have to work and you have to make the money. But don't be too proud to ask for help, because unless you've done this before, it's challenging. So I love it. I love having control over my life and my schedule and who I work with, and who might not be a good fit for me. But yeah, it can be very humbling at times when you think you've got it all figured out, and a program flops or the technology doesn't work. So my advice would be to seek the help and to use coaches and resources that are out there.
Great. Do we have any? Oh, here's another question. What advice do you have for those who are entering the corporate world from your experience?
So I'll go back to my media relations story. Is volunteer for the things. First of all, go to everything. If they say to you, we have a networking event tonight for this, even if it sounds like a big snooze fest, go. You are going to learn something. You are going to meet somebody. Get everyone's card if they're still giving out cards. I don't know what you young people do, but get cards, follow up, but volunteer for the things that don't seem as popular. Because if you become really good at something that very few people want to do, you've got job security. And not that that's the be all end all, but I saw an opportunity to do something where everybody was nobody wanted to do it. I said, well, I'll try it. I mean, I couldn't guarantee that I was going to love it and do it for the rest of my life, but not everything, it doesn't have to be exactly how you think the job should be. You can make your own opportunities. So go to everything, ask lots of questions, and volunteer to be part of things.
I have a question. So did you mention if your current degree is a master's or if it's a Bachelor of Science?
No, actually my Slippery Rock degree was a bachelor's. The current degree that I'm getting, it took me 4 years to get an associate's degree. So I will have a dietetics degree That's a 2-year program. And then I can go on and become a registered dietitian. You have to go an additional 2
Yeah,
years
that's
for
what
that.
I was gonna ask, if you were gonna go to get a license to be registered.
So here's the challenge, because I've gone back and forth. I love learning and I love being in school. When you have, it's so much easier at your age. So do it. If you're going to go on, do it soon, before you have families and commitments and jobs that take you all over the place. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. For what I want to do, for the business that I have, the difference between what I am as a dietetic tech versus a registered dietitian can prescribe medical nutrition therapy for patients who have medical conditions. So diabetes, hypertension. If your doctor refers you to a dietitian, it's because you have something that, needs some specialized attention. I don't work with those people. I tend to refer them out to a dietitian. So I haven't decided, but right now, no, I'm going to be done in December, and I'm going to, continue to build my business. And then in a couple of years, if I feel like I'm called to do some of that kind of work, maybe in a hospital or a long-term care facility, then yes, I would go back. But right now, I don't need it for what my business is. So I'm going to take a breather.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. We've got a couple questions in here about what skills from an internship do you think would help get you to where you are now?
From an intern, like skills from an internship. So I think any time that you can do an internship where it gives you the practical experience. So I just did 500 hours of internships for this dietetics program. So yes, I wanted to be in the hospital and learn how to screen patients, critical, care patients for nutrition concerns. But I also wanted to see how a hospital works. So I would say that in an internship, you really want to get as much of kind of both sides of it. Yeah, you want to get all of the on the job technical stuff. You want to know how things work and what type of job you might be doing. But also, it's really helpful, especially if you ever want to own your own business. Get into or try to find out how the business works, how they're set up, what's their operating structure, how do they make their money. McDonald's was a great example of this. They're a very operations driven company. And so our interns had access to, meetings where we would talk about operations. Even if they were a communications intern, they would sit in operations meetings, they would sit in HR meetings. So I would say internships are fantastic. Make the most of it, and try to get some background on how the business actually works, as well as the subject matter expertise that you're trying to get for your degree.
Great. And then looking at this, one of the most important things I think any of us find in life is having mentors or people that we role model ourselves after at work. Can you discuss any particular individuals in your path that have filled that relationship for you?
Yeah, so from the university, Dr. Flynn, Tom Flynn, was somebody who early on really, I was not a communications major, but really kind of took me under his wing and showed me, here's an opportunity for you with the English background that you have to go into what that would look like to go into communications. So that's somebody. So I think that's important to find the people in your program, in your department, who can kind of give you that guidance, even if they're not your advisor. And then, yes, I still am very, very good friends with my first supervisor at the ad agency that I worked at. And she has been somebody who I go back to time and time again to say, I'm thinking about doing this. When I started this business, I reached out to her and I was like, do you see me doing this? Do you see, me as this person when I've been this person for almost 25 years? And something else that I learned at McDonald's was there are mentors, there are advisors, and then there are champions. So people who, mentors are going to kind of steer you along the way, in the right, path, and kind of give you that good, unbiased advice. Where an advisor, some of the same types of guidance, but somebody who's your advocate or somebody who is your cheerleader, the person who is really, cheering you on, you need that person too. So you want somebody who's going to tell you, these are some great steps to take to get you where you want to be. But then you also need the person who's like, I'm in your corner, you've got this, call me when you're frustrated. I think those, a couple of different people from a mentor standpoint is really important, because you need that person. The mentor may not be the person to, cheer you on. It really has to be kind of that advocate. So I like to have a couple different ones. It's like my own little personal board of directors. Keep me on the straight and narrow.
That's awesome. So we've got two questions about your different fields. So we'll go back at first to your media life, since you're recently with that. What was the most difficult part about working with media?
They're rude. I mean, it's not because they don't like people. They are inundated, and I can't even imagine, because I've not been doing it for a few years now, but I can't even imagine how it is now. Yes, I worked in the age of, we were still, faxing things over to the Post Gazette, or, meeting deadlines for the print version of the New York Times. It's 24 hours a day. It's constant. So the most difficult part was really standing out and finding a way to reach them in a way that isn't just, spamming them. It's not, giving them what they need when they need it, make sure it's written well. Because when you make their job easier, they love you. And that's how I built relationships with reporters. I would contact them before I had a big story that I wanted to pitch to them, and say, hey, would you meet me for, coffee, or, can we have a quick phone conversation? I just want to get a sense of what you're looking for. How can I provide you with information the right way? Do you like fax? Do you like email? How is it best to get you information? And a little bit of that communication and respect goes a long way. So they're just inundated. And like I said, I can't even imagine what it's like now, where things are just 24 hours a day. There are, the online newsroom and the traditional newsroom. It's just, there's so much information out there. But I think if you can find a way to make their job easier, then they're a lot easier to deal with. They're not so mean.
Okay, this is probably the last question, then we'll have everyone take their mics off if they have any open discussion they want to have, or maybe questions you have back to them. But so the last question we have for you is sort of as it relates directly to getting started in the wellness business. Dylan, who's on the call today, this is his dream to have a job in the own his own business in the wellness field. And so what sort of intricacies are you seeing in launching into the wellness and nutrition field, as opposed to maybe some nuances that go into other sectors? And then we have a follow-up question that just, if you could explain a little bit more about what exactly do you do for your clients as well?
Yeah. So I would say the biggest, I guess maybe challenge, or the intricacies, I can't even say that word, would be the onslaught of wellness information that's out there. So I'll use a really simple example of just the different diets. So I have people come to me all the time and say, oh, I want to do keto. And I'm like, why? Well, I saw it on, Dr. Oz, and, this lady, she lost 85 pounds in 2 months. And so there's so much out there. There's so much being put out there. And the problem is it's being put out there by people who are more influencer than they are actually educators. So they're not people who have, Teddy Mellencamp, if you know who she is is the daughter of John Cougar Mellencamp and a real housewife of something. she is she is she is making millions. I mean, okay, so she's a celebrity's daughter, so she's probably got at least a head start on most of us. But she's making millions by being an accountability coach. So she has come up with a diet. She's not a nutritionist. She's not a health coach. She's not a personal trainer. She has no healthcare experience whatsoever. She was on the Real Housewives, but she's an accountability coach. She has a diet, and she's out there selling it and giving advice. So for me, that's the biggest challenge. That's the biggest hurdle I face every day is how do I get people to understand that what you see on Instagram, what you saw on Dr. Oz is not reality. Yes, this lady may have lost 85 pounds, but there are a lot of other things that probably went into that. So that I would say is the biggest challenge that's out there in terms of wellness. And then, so what I do for my clients, so in addition to the dietetics background, so I have a certification as a personal trainer and health coach. And so my primary audience are busy professionals. So men and women who have jobs like I did that take them all over the place, that leave them no time for exercise or eating well. And I help them figure out a program to get healthier. For some people, that means weight loss. For some people, that means, reducing blood pressure. They've got some tests that came back and they were concerning. They've got high cholesterol or, some of those other risk factors, and they want to change and have a healthier lifestyle. So what I'm allowed to do as a dietetics professional, as well as a trainer and health coach, is to help them come up with, so I do their workouts. I, plan out all of their workouts. I will give them dietitian approved. So I work with a dietitian, meal plans if they need them. But usually it's just like, let's look at, how much you should be eating, how often, are you sleeping enough? Are you getting enough water? So it's really looking at the total person and what their lifestyle behaviors are, and then helping them just change a few things to lose the weight, to have better energy, to sleep better, to reduce their blood pressure, whatever that might be, whatever their goals are. So that's what I do. So it's fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle coaching.
Thank you. That is an awesome overview of the last few years of your life and how you made a pretty big jump. So does anyone who is on the call right now have questions for Niki? You just want to take your mic off, or do you have any questions for I always like to turn the tables after being grilled. Do you have any questions that perhaps someone could answer for you?
Sure. I mean, I would love to hear, or just maybe, what is are these all different majors here? Are there, I don't want to scare anyone away from anything. I don't want to scare you away from chemistry. It's hard, but you'll get through it.
I'm looking across the screen here and I see business majors, and I know Mariah Becker has, I think at least at one point, had a goal of being somewhat like you, Mariah, your exercise science, right? Is that?
I am early ed.
Okay. Oh, well, maybe you just like to exercise then. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I do like to exercise.
Okay, I thought so. I didn't think I was wrong. But it looks like we have students from all over if anyone wants to elaborate.
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Hey, I'm Michael. I'm a philosophy major and a psychology major. And I'm just wondering if you ever worked with any like vegans or vegetarians and what your experience with that is?
Yeah, so I have a lot of vegetarians in my life, friends and family. But yeah, I work with a lot of people who not only want to, for ethical reasons, cut animal proteins out of their diet, but for health reasons, look to do more of a plant-based diet. Again, plant-based, excuse me, is one of those very trendy things right now. So I've had people come to me and say, I'm going plant-based. I'm like, okay, why? Like, did you decide you don't want to eat meat? That's fine. But they're like, oh, that's the way to lose weight. And I always say, and I'm sure some of you have heard this, Oreos are vegan. So, so plant-based and vegan, eating is not necessarily the healthiest or, a weight loss cure. So I love working with people who like plant-based cooking, because they're really, you have to be very creative to get enough protein in your diet. And, and it's just amazing to me, people who really embrace it, how creative they are with cooking. But yeah, I work with a lot of people who are concerned they aren't getting enough protein, or they're not getting enough calories overall because they're eating a lot of plants. And I love it. I love the challenge. I love looking, this is like the nerdiest thing ever, but I love looking at food journals. So any of my clients, as soon as they sign on with me, they do a 3-day food journal, just so I can get an idea of, how much and what they're eating and at what times, because it really is interesting to see, people who think they overeat tend to not. There's a lot of people who are not eating enough out there. So, but yeah, I love working with people who are interested in plant-based, because it's just good. It's always good to put more plants in your diet, and it's good for the environment. And it's good for so many other things.
I have another question.
Sorry, Martha.
What organizations did you go through to get your certifications for coaching and fitness?
So I went through the American Council on Exercise, so ACE. There are 2 big ones. So ACE is a big one, and then NASM is the National Association of Sports Medicine. That's the other one. Both are very research-based. So there are a ton of certifications out there that you could get. They're both accredited, and there are other accredited programs. They're both accredited, and they're both research-based and really based in science. So that was important to me, because of all of the information that's out there that I sometimes feel like is, it's just kind of, I don't know who's making it up, but but it was important to me to have a credential that actually had credibility and had standing within the fitness and wellness industry.
I'm a dual major in dance and physical activity and fitness management, and I have a
yeah.
minor in adventure fitness. So like everything that I've been like asking you, I've already done kind of like
Yeah.
research on those things. So I'm just kind of like comparing like where I'm at and where I might
Yeah.
want to with like organizations that you've been involved with and stuff. So that's why I was curious.
Yeah, so I would say, and I just actually spoke to another SRU student who's in exercise science. Anytime that, so the minors, the major and the minors that you have are fantastic. Any type of nutrition coursework that you can add into it and have
I'm
that
taking
well.
nutrition right now, sports nutrition. So
Yeah, so any kind of nutrition. So that's why even this 2-year program, so I'm doing it through CCAC. It's an accredited program. It's one of the very few that are in the country, highly regarded. It gives you enough kind of the basic and the foundation of nutrition and behavior change and management to kind of put it all together. So I would definitely encourage, if you have the opportunity to even take more nutrition courses, then definitely do it, because that just makes you so much better from a professional standpoint, to be able to look at both the physical and the nutrition.
thank you.
I actually have something, Martha. I'm actually reading this book for my one class. It's called No Sweat.
Okay.
It's actually a very fascinating book. Have you ever read it, Nikki?
I
I'll
haven't.
ask you about it. It's a very fascinating take on like fitness and activity throughout our days, and I just thought
Yeah.
I would recommend this for
I
anyone.
love it. Thank you. Thank you. I love books. I'm a big Audible person. So when I'm working out, I like to have a podcast or an audiobook or something like that. I was trying to think what I just finished. There are a ton that I could send you guys a list of some of the books that, that I've read on just, wellness and the industry in general. But just on building habits, and so I'm not sure what that book's about, but my philosophy is you fit in fitness where you can. So it doesn't have to be an hour every day where you're killing yourself on a treadmill. It could be 3 15-minute bursts of activity, and functional exercise. So things that are going to help you, and this is me speaking in my late 40s, things that are going to help you live longer and be healthier longer. So I love to help people lose weight if that's what they need to do and that's good for their health. But I'm also concerned about helping people, with balance and flexibility and strength, because that's what carries you through life.
Nikki, I have a question. You said that you were, I don't remember how you phrased it, like the one and only employee or something like that. So is it just you? Like, how many clients do you have then? Because that seems like a full load.
It is. So, yes, so it is just me. But so the exercise science student I was talking with, I'm talking to her about doing an internship this summer 2021, because I am getting to the point where I could probably use an extra hand, and we'll eventually get to the point where I want to have maybe a junior coach work with me. So I do group coaching and then I do individual coaching. And so individual coaching is the way that my program runs, it's very hands-on. So my individual clients have, an app that we use for messages, and they have access to me basically every day. They can send me a text and say, hey, I'm at this restaurant, what should I order? I'm, at this crappy gym, and I actually have a client right now, he's in Houston or Louisiana somewhere, because of the hurricanes. He's in the insurance industry, so he's down there doing some things. So he has the ability to text me. So one-on-one clients, I keep it pretty small. Would never get to be more than maybe 10 a month that I work with, because we have weekly meetings. I do all their workouts, all that kind of stuff. But what I love to do is some of the group coaching. So I can do that, and most of my coaching is done online. So I have a platform, I have a client portal where they log in, they see their workouts, they see their nutrition, all that kind of stuff. But group programs are fun because it's getting people together who are all kind of on the same journey. So I can do those. It's very different. They don't have the same access, and it's not as hands-on. So I could have 20 people in a group program every month and work with them. So it just depends. But yeah, it's very busy. And it's, and I'm also doing, all the administrative stuff and the marketing and, that kind of thing.
Are there any other questions for Nikki? Well, if there are no other questions, do you have any other questions for them that you would like to ask? Or
now, I love the book recommendation. Does anybody have a good podcast? Anybody is like, I love podcasts, but right now I'm listening to like really fluffy ones that don't they're more fun. I'm listening to the Office Ladies podcast. If you guys are fans of The Office, you need to listen to this podcast. It's amazing. But yeah, it's not really giving me a lot of mental stimulation. No?
anyone have a good suggestion?
All right, I'll just keep listening to The Office Ladies.
Well, now I'm gonna have to.
There was a podcast called Serial that I had to listen to for my senior AP class in high school. I don't know if
Yeah,
you heard of it.
I
It's actually
did.
based on like a true news article about this guy who was being convicted of murdering his girlfriend, and they were trying to like open the case back.
Yeah.
He was wrongfully convicted. It was really interesting.
So I listened to that season, and then there was a second season, and I don't know that I listened. I don't think I got to the second season. Did you listen to the second season?
I don't think so. I was trying to keep up with the story. His name was Saeed or
Yes. Okay.
yeah. And I was trying to keep up with the story because it came back up in the news, and like he was getting a retrial and it was going.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They were looking at, yeah. So that was, oh my God, I'm a junior now. That was like almost 4 years ago now, but
Yeah.
but yeah.
I love podcasts. Like I said, I'm not listening to any that are, highly intellectual, but I like podcasts.
I was gonna say there's this one I listened to a while back last year, and it's called like "And That's Why We Drank," and it's like every episode's
love
like
it.
about a like horror like murder story. Like
I love it.
it's interesting. Like there was the one about like, have you ever heard about like the drinking the Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
Like they had a whole thing on that and like how that.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
It's
that's really
interesting.
cool.
I liked it.
I like that kind of stuff too. Like where
Mhm.
it's like, it's like things that have happened and, kind of digging into it. All right, I'm seeing things pop up here, so I think I'm gonna have to go back and look at the chat.
Yeah, there's some good suggestions here. Women at Work, Super Women with Rebecca
Oh,
Minkoff.
I love that.
I'll have to put all these down in a list, the book recommendations too from everyone. So thank you guys for that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Nikki, I have a question for you, if I may. I'm no longer a
Sure.
student, but I really like your message about curiosity and how you probably ended up somewhere where you hadn't planned. I wondered if you could speak a little bit more on how you kind of found that next thing, because we all face transitions, whether you're leaving college or
Right.
you unexpectedly lose a job or you're getting ready to retire. Do you have any pointers for how do you find that next thing in your life when it's kind of was
Yeah.
unexpected or a
Yeah.
big move or change?
I think you find it two ways. Either you're forced to find it because you've been, your job's been terminated and you're like, okay, this is a good time for change. Or like for me, it was my own lifestyle. I mean, I never got to the point where I felt like I was, a heart attack waiting to happen, but I wasn't healthy. And after about a year of kind of changing how I behaved, getting good sleep, making sure I was drinking enough water, exercising. My doctor, my rheumatologist, said to me, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it so I have rheumatoid arthritis and I have unknown, very few people have heard of it. It's called Sjogren's syndrome. Those are the two autoimmune diseases that I have. And, my grandmother had rheumatoid arthritis and it was debilitating for her. And so as soon as he said that, it was like this bell went off in my head. I was like, oh God, no, like I'm not going to end up like that. And so he said, I don't know what you're doing. He's like, but you should be feeling more pain. You should have more joint swelling. You should have more of the signs of these diseases. And you don't. And he's like, so whatever you're doing, it's working. And, I do take one prescription and I've cut that dose in half because I really feel like my lifestyle has helped me kind of manage this and keep it in check. So I think it's a life event. So, an illness, a divorce, things like that, where you're like, time to reinvent myself. Or it's, you're forced to do it in terms of, job changes or, industry changes, things like that, where something has become less in demand and you have to kind of go out there. But I would say don't jump into a career because your health, something comes up in your health. It just ended up being a passion of mine. I loved helping people. I loved, being that person who would say to somebody, you can do this. Like if I can do this, if I can get up at 5 a.m. when I've, taken the red eye, home and, have had very little sleep and I can work out, you can do this. So it turned out to be a passion, but it was triggered by this kind of wake up call from a health standpoint.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We all face the transition, so just
Well, and I think
how do you
too,
find the next thing? Yeah.
right. So I think in your mid 40s, like I was like, look, I am not doing something that I'm not going to enjoy.
Mhm.
Like early in your career, and I'm not saying that anybody should work in a job that they don't like, but early in your career, you're willing to put up with more because you're trying to get experience and you've got to make money. At 44, I was like, whatever I'm going to do with this, I'm going to love it or I'm not going to do it. So I think it's also age, kind of where you are in life. So
Thanks for sharing.
yeah.
We have one more question in the chat window, sort of an elaboration on that, but you're trying to make that career change. And how do you do that? How do you get ready to start that? Like that whole process of, going down that path. Like, I think I want to do something else.
Yeah.
how do I do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it again, curiosity should lead you to wanting to do the research. And, I would say this to anybody who's looking to make a career change or to even just do something different in the current job or career they're in, talk to people who are already doing it. Because they're going to give you the real scoop on, is it the type of thing that you would like to do? So research, talking to people, and then because it's just what people do now is do it on the side. If it's something that, I mean, I did that for 2 years. I worked full time and I was, coaching, doing personal training, that kind of stuff on the side while I was trying to get this business started. So as long as it's okay with your employer, and it was with mine, give it a test run, because as long as you have that security of, you already have a job, you could do it for 6 months on the side and then decide, nope, wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I can just now go back to my job or figure out whatever else I want to do. But you've got to do the research, because everybody thinks, like, I'm just speaking for wellness. Everyone's like, oh God, yeah. I'm like, I lost 20 pounds. I can tell people how to do this. I can, recommend a protein powder. It's so much more than that. So just, do the research, talk to people, and then ease into it.
Thank you. So I think that's the last of the questions in the chat window. So Niki, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I see we hit an hour, and I think everybody says for virtual events, that's a good place to stop. And since we saw a great question and a great answer, it's really been our pleasure to have you join us tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to give you my contact information if anybody wants to chat anytime. Happy to do that, but just always up for talking to SRU friends.
Well, if anyone else has questions, now is the time. Otherwise, if you need to log off, go ahead. We'll stay on the call for a few more minutes if anybody has questions that you want to ask in a smaller setting. If you are in the Honors College, don't worry, I will tell Dr. Hilton you were here. So sure on that one. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? Oh, sorry, did I just cut you off?
No.
I just wanted to ask, you had mentioned that you switched really late in your career and that you took chemistry and weren't very good at it. And I just wanted to know if there was anything you recommended for people who maybe go through that same thing and find that they're struggling in the new career path they've chosen. Because it's something I've thought about, and I know that I'm still young, but I fear that the path that I want to take will be too hard for me because I'm not very good at the prerequisites that come before it. So if you have any pointers on getting through that.
So so I would say exhaust all of the help that is available. So I will tell you right now, so I'm taking organic chemistry, and the teacher is, she's lovely. She's very difficult for me to understand. Her teaching style is just, it's not my teaching style. Plus it's not, we're not in person except for our labs. So she posts a Zoom not a Zoom, but a recorded lecture. We listen to that, we download slides, and I was like, oh, I'm going to study the slides. I'm going to read the chapter. I listened to the lecture, go in and take a test, and I bombed. So, so I went back to former, so students who were in the dietetics program who had already graduated. And I said, hey, she's the only one that teaches this. I know you all had her, help me. And immediately got lists of there's a YouTube channel and there's, all of these other resources. So, I'm basically kind of, tutoring myself, I'm finding the resources. But I would say before you give up, before you say oh, this is not for me, exhaust all of those avenues, reach out to somebody in the profession even and just say, hey, how did you get through this? Because I'll tell you, bioorganic chemistry is not, I'm not going to use that in my everyday health coaching. I'm sure she wishes I was saying something different. I'm not going to. I am not going to be writing out chemical formulas to explain to my clients how they metabolize food. It's good to know it. It's good to have it in, to be able to identify, an aldehyde group. That's awesome. It's not, so I would say get through some of those things that you have to have it, but it's not critical to what you want to do on a day-to-day basis. And then once you've exhausted all of those resources, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Don't wait. I've seen too many, my daughter is a graduate of Slippery Rock. She's, 27, and my son's in school right now. He's at Point Park. And, I've always said to my kids, if you don't like this, don't do it. Like there is no shame in saying, this isn't for me. I don't like this. I told you, pre-physical therapy. Now looking back, I would be totally fine with the human cadaver. But at the time, it was like this, oh my God, no, this is not what I want to do. And, thankfully I had, the parents who were like, then don't do it. Don't waste your time. Don't waste the money. But definitely exhaust all avenues.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dylan, did you have another question? Oh, we can't hear you, hon.
Oh, I think he's muted.
I think he's gonna try one more time. I've become a tech genius, but exclusively for the past 7 months, and I think he just needs to do a little restart.
That's right.
Turn it off and
Have you
turn it on theory.
We still can't hear him.
It's beyond my knowledge then. I'm only, I know
Huh.
it would be dangerous.
It's not showing that he's muted. Huh. It's weird. Oh, yes, you can have yes, absolutely. Here, I can type it in right now. All of you can have it. It's totally fine. Hopefully I typed that correctly. Yes, please feel free to reach out, on any part of my weird career. Happy to chat.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you again, Nikki, for taking the
Oh,
time to be
you're
with us.
welcome.
I know that I didn't put this on, but I really appreciate you coming. And thanks,
Oh,
Angelina,
thank
for
you.
putting it on.
Yeah,
Have
thank
a
you.
wonderful night.
Thank you. You too.
Nikki, I actually had a question if I could stay on.
Yeah.
Kelly, we're still just FYI.